Good evening and welcome to episode 18 of the Above Average Joe's podcast. I'm Kyle, and above me right here is Matt, and then over here is Heath, and to this side of me is our special guest, Mr. Jeff Thatchick. Welcome to
Hello.
The episode. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Staying
Loving
out
my
of trouble?
Wuhan vacation.
Haven't gotten sick of being at home yet?
Moments.
Quarantinis are great.
Quarantinis, yeah. If they close the liquor stores, then I'm in trouble.
Well, that would be a problem. Liquor stores, pot shops, anything to take the edge off a little bit, I think.
Well, it's a little concerning when you look at the news, too, the last little bit. The one thing that I noticed is there's a couple of meatpacking places in Ontario that they had employees test positive, and you're like, those are the places we really don't need shut down.
Yeah, no kidding.
As long as we're all well fed, we would be happy, but whatever. I can make a liquid diet out of things for a little while. Eating a lot of wild game. It's all good. Anyway, on the show.
Okay, what do we got up today?
Well, we're going to talk a little CFL at the beginning. The Riders made a small roster move. We'll talk a little bit about that. Craig Reynolds, Riders president, CEO, did a little Q&A with some local media. Then there's a few questions around the season and what's going on. But one thing kind of jumped out at me a little bit, and I got a little theory, my own little brainwave on that. Hey, we're looking for solutions now. We know what the problem is. And then we'll jump to the NFL, and there's some Todd Gurley news and some Drew Brees news, and then maybe a bit of draft news. But next week, everybody should tune in if you're an NFLer for our the whole show is going to be NFL draft, basically, because that's basically the only thing that's really progressing in terms of any league right now. So
you're a football nerd.
And we're junkies, and we're total junkies, right? So. And
we
then
like
we're doing something a little special. Go ahead. What?
I said we're junkies and we also like football too.
Oh, there you go. Whatever gets your fix on. Fix what's broken. Anyway, then we're going to jump into something a little different we're going to do this week. The NHL, there's a little bit of news there. Some sad news with the passing of a player. And then the four of us are all going to go over our all-time tough guy team. Not straight up goons per se. So, like some of these guys can fight, they can score, they can play the game of hockey. So we're going to go through 9 forwards, 4 Dmen, and a goalie. Each of us, we're going to debate a little bit, go from there, and then we're going to end the show on yesterday being the 1 year anniversary, 1 day ago was the 40-year anniversary of the start of the Terry Fox Marathon of Hope. A little bit of info there, but pretty great Canadian. We'd be amiss to probably not mention him in some capacity. So anyway, let's go to the Riders. They released Brian Bennett, quarterback, our short yardage guy last year. I guess with the bringing in a Franklin, it was only inevitable to some degree. They weren't going to go maybe with him again. But with the season being abbreviated, stunted, postponed, he did play a little special teams, which kind of helps for a third stringer if he can get out there and play multiple positions in the CFL. But there's only 3 guys heading into camp. Now, my question is if you have an abbreviated camp, whenever that happens, do you even bother with the 3 names we have? Harker in behind Fajardo with Franklin, who is just freshly signed. Do you even bother bringing another arm in?
No, because they're going to need the work. You usually bring in extra arms for camp because you don't want to burn them out for the long season. But if it's a short season, you need all the reps you can get. That's my
opinion. I agree. This is an exceptional circumstance this year.
Would you be scared at all of burning them out because there's too many reps in short order?
No.
Potentially?
No.
No? You're not worried about it?
No.
I don't think I would be either, but I'm
they're
sure
not
these guys
old
are gonna
dudes
come
like
ready
us.
to play,
They're young, strapping men. They'll be fine.
Was Bennett going to be cut no matter what?
I think
when
so.
they did open camp.
I think so.
Well,
I think they like Harker.
What would have been the harm?
I think they like Harker.
Yeah. Well,
You mean
and
like if
Franklin,
it wasn't going to be a shortened season, they probably
yeah, like
would have kept him
what's it
on
going to
the
cost them
roster.
to bring him in for the 2 weeks, say, or whatever, and then turf him then? At least you got a fourth arm.
Maybe they
Just
have
a thought.
somebody else they're going to bring in. Maybe they found somebody else.
Yeah, true. I guess if anybody got hurt in camp, it'd be easy to bring them back in.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was just a little thought I had. And then there was some other news with the Riders. Craig Reynolds had a presser via a digital presser, I guess you could say. And he had mentioned some different stuff about the season and how it's going and what their expectations are and yada, yada, yada. The one thing he did mention, though, that kind of struck me in the Q&A was that the Riders with their gate, and their gate is a strong gate versus a lot of others, but I mean, it was around $17 million.
Yeah, for the 10 games.
Yeah. And you're like, ooh, that is like, I knew it'd be a
That's just
healthy
gate.
chunk of money.
That's just the gate.
That's just the gate, right? But I mean, that's also not minus the game day staff and concessions and all that other stuff. But I mean, still 17 million gross, and they expected it to be a little bit higher than 17 million, maybe the 18 mark. The TV deal is 50 million a year, okay, which between 9 teams is about 5.5. The cap is 5.5. That's money in, money out on the ledger, right? So TV basically covers the player contract costs, right? So we were talking before about, can they do this without a gate?
No.
And we were overwhelmingly a no, right? So food for thought was, how do they go about having a season with no gate and survive? There's got to be at least a way to make a little bit of money. Not saying they're covering all 17 million.
Maybe if you're the Riders.
Maybe if you're the Riders. But I mean, for the stadium costs, that kind of thing, the running of the club, they've got the provincial and the city government, that have loaned the money. They got loans to repay. Could they do like the big banks do with all of us potentially?
That's who would take the biggest.
Some of these.
That's who would take a big hit, is the city with no games in the stadium. They'd take a
Right.
bigger hit than the Riders.
But I mean, the Riders didn't have all the cash when they put in their share, did they? I don't believe they did. So they're going to have to defer some payments too, which would further reduce their costs, right? But my thought is that we were talking about the NHL and how shitty of a job Rogers did on that TV contract in terms of supplying digital content. Now, digital content is going to be the only content you maybe can get, via TV, via digital sources, because there's going to be no in-stadium product for anybody. So NHL Center Ice, right, is a product that the NHL rolls out. You pay a subscription, you pay for the rights to watch those games. Why doesn't the CFL go down that road? It can generate you some kind of cash.
So,
right?
If you're already paying for TSN, who is the rights holder, and why would I want to pay extra to watch games that somebody's already paying for? My
only theory is that TSN doesn't broadcast the games unless there's a certain amount of tickets sold. They're never hitting that number. So now it's a blackout. If you black it out in Saskatchewan, even if it's a home game, and you black it out in Hamilton because they're the visitor, and you just tell everybody, listen, you can watch this game in Saskatchewan for $5. The average attendance in a CFL game, they said last year, across the league was 22,000. But what's the viewership? The playoff game in Calgary and Winnipeg, between the two, was roughly 1 million viewers.
Is that language in the TV contract that they that if there's a certain number, it doesn't meet a certain number, they can black out the games?
Well, that's what it's always been, and then they've changed the rules since in terms of they can only black out a couple, right?
But I mean, a game blacked
different
out
times,
forever.
Different times call for different measures, right? Like if there's nobody in the stadium, they don't have the gate, make a virtual gate. Am I crazy?
No,
maybe.
That's not a terrible idea.
No.
So if everybody pays $5 and say a rider game on average viewership wise, TSN, right, whatever, is 500,000 views. That's $1 million a game at $2. 10 games, 10 million.
So at $5,
It's not.
you
It's
make
not.
your gate.
Right. You would spend $2 to watch a rider game in Saskatchewan.
Of course I would, because it'd still be cheaper than if I went to the game.
Right.
So the WWE is actually doing this, are they not? Right now?
With pay-per-view, you mean?
And basically make it a pay-per-view. Yeah.
So they have their own. Yeah, they have their own version of Center Ice, right?
Right.
The
And the
WWE
NFL
does.
does it. Yeah, for sure.
So the CFL could potentially do that too.
Well, and that's sort of my question is, why aren't you guys getting into the digital side of the game? It's forcing your hand. They're always, the CFL is a little bit behind, but they're not a big pockets league. Well, maybe this is just the push they need to get into that kind of realm, is my thought. Now, we just did a quick number on $2. And I mean, $2. I mean, we've all bought an app on our phone for $2. Like, big deal, right?
Like I think esports is a great thing to talk about, but when TSN's talking about esports, it's probably a good opportune time for you to give TSN different content.
Well, or a different delivery method of the same content.
Well, that's
right?
true. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Exactly. So my thought is even at $2, if you get 500,000 viewers.
So the games you still play in an empty stadium?
Yeah.
So you still have
but instead of losing 17 million, you lose 7. That's kind of my thought. Like, you're not in a money making position, you're in a money salvaging position is essentially what their mode is now changed to, in my opinion, right? They can't sustain the $17 million loss. And they're the richest club in the league. Right? So is there a way that they can maybe grab some digital subscriber type delivery method and make a little money? And who knows, going forward, it may make them a few more million once things resume in stadium. I don't know. It was a thought I kind of had.
It's not the worst suggestion I've heard. That's for sure.
Well, and we can hammer all we want on all the problems and the who, what, when, where, why is it going to come back, but it may not come back. So what's your answer? What's your plan B? And that's what I think, not just sports, but I think a lot of people got to look at. What's your plan B? Can't be locked down forever. What's your plan B?
Well, it is true. I mean, that's kind of the point, is you have to have a way to get out of it eventually, right?
Right, exactly. So, there's a lot of people working under the assumption that, COVID will go away and it'll just go back to normal. Maybe not entirely. Maybe not at all. Not even close. Like, there's varying degrees. So if you're playing an entire season with nobody in the stadium, that's worst case scenario.
I think we can safely say that this season for sure is going to be different.
Yeah, it's going to be very awkward. But life's awkward right now. So, just throw it on the pile with everything else. So
everything's a little weird.
I don't know. It was just the thought I had that they don't really have a subscription based sort of viewership kind of methodology in play right now. So maybe it's something they should look at. It's kind of forcing their hand to look at a different way to generate money.
Well, I think for sure in a place like Saskatchewan, you'd have no problem selling that. And
Right.
actually, it wouldn't be a terrible idea anyways for the people who don't go to the games. But a place like Toronto,
that North American continent right now is hungry for fresh content.
Oh,
anything,
for sure.
Anything.
Absolutely.
So all you do is work things out with a schedule, ESPN, TSN, and I'm sure people gobble it up everywhere just so they can watch something new.
And everyone talks about normal, right? What normalcy can you add back into your life? Well, just watching the Riders play is going to make people feel a little better. Forget about the bad things for 3 hours, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You get a little warm and fuzzy in your crotch, Everybody's down with that. So anyway, it was just a little thought. I thought, let's look at a possible idea for a solution. I'm not saying it's the best idea. I'm not saying it's the only idea, but
Well, when we have Randy on the show, you can
solutions.
You can bring that up to him.
Dandy Randy.
Dandy Randy.
Anyway,
anything
I'm
else
gonna move on.
CFL rider base that we want to talk about?
That's pretty much it. That was pretty much it. Kind of slow.
Yeah.
I wanted to offer up that no matter how this season goes for the CFL, it's going to turn out better than things did for the XFL.
That is true. Very good point, Maddie. Very good point. Filed for bankruptcy today, hey?
Yeah, so I guess there's a reason or rhyme to that reason why we kind of dropped off covering them, eh?
Yeah, a little bit.
I did not hear that they filed for bankruptcy today.
I think they were going to go through a hard stretch. We all kind of knew that. How hard was going to be the question, but this pandemic just fucking it destroyed them. Destroyed them. So it's too bad. It's too bad. Yep. There's always a little bit of extra promise of having that little bit of extra football in the schedule there in the calendar year.
Now
I guess.
We just want any.
What do you do? What do you do? Anyway, NFL, speaking of football, did you see the Rams dealt Brandon Cooks to the Texans? Bill O'Brien, man, he's either the mad genius or he's fucking bumped his head.
Yeah, he's mad.
He traded Cooks and a fourth to the Texans, and he gave him a second back to the Rams. So it's pretty close to a lot of the same content that the Hopkins-David Johnson trade had. So I don't know why they're bringing in a super expensive receiver when they were pissed about paying the last guy, who was a super expensive receiver or soon to be more expensive
and
receiver.
And this one isn't as good.
Well, and he's not as good. And the Rams got $21.8 million in dead money on the books. $22 million for him not even catching passes for you, and you just lost Gurley, right? So, yeah, Bill O'Brien better make the playoffs. He better win playoff games, or his ass is gone. Anyway, I saw it, and I'm like, what the fuck's he doing? That's not even going to work in Madden. That trade would get rejected. Anyway.
So would the Hopkins trade.
That's a lot of money to eat. Holy.
Yeah. For a guy who's just a speed guy, and Kenny Stills is a pretty fast receiver, and I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, Todd Gurley signed with Atlanta, and he's changing his number to number 21. I don't know if you guys saw that. And anybody who knows a little something about football is going to remember number 21 for the Falcons belonged to a legend, a Hall of Famer, in the name and the form of Deion Sanders. And he never asked Sanders for his blessing, was apparently the deal. In fact, Primetime, apparently, according to Gurley, said that, he didn't want him to wear it. But he changed his number to 21 anyway. So the media picked that up and tried to make a controversy out of it. And it sounded like they were doing not a bad job. But typical to the media, try to make a controversy, right? Mm-hmm. Sells papers, gets clicks. Anyway, Primetime came back out and he clarified the situation. And he said that a number didn't make Prime. Prime made the number. Could there be a more Deion Sanders way of clearing up?
That's pretty Deion.
That is total Deion. Total Deion.
That's my guy.
I just can't figure out how Gurley goes in there. And I mean, the number's been worn by like Desmond Trufant, I believe, was a corner that wore it for a number of years for Atlanta. It's in the Ring of Honor, but it's not retired. It's not out of circulation.
He doesn't freaking own it.
Then anybody can wear it.
True. But I mean, it's sort of like going to Boston and putting on number 4 for the Bruins. It's like, even if it's
putting on number 81 for the Riders. People still do it.
I was going to say Ray Elgard gets pissed off because people wear his number. Well, sorry, it's not retired. It's fair game. You don't own it.
There's only so many numbers.
Yeah.
There's a couple numbers that you should never be able to wear. And I'm sorry, Deion.
Yeah, 99 in hockey, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
90, yeah. And you can't wear 99 in hockey.
Exactly.
Like, you legit can't.
Right. So make it so nobody can wear 21 for the Falcons and the Cowboys and the 49ers, and then Deion will be happy.
Well, and like going back to the Gretzky thing, I've playing rec hockey and stuff, and guys get the stupid numbers on their new team jerseys, sponsored by whatever KFC Chicken House or whatever the fuck it may be. But there'll be a guy, no word of a lie, there'll be a guy with 69, there'll be a guy with 99 all the time, and it's like, dude, don't wear 99. You just don't, right? You just don't. But
you want to retire a number from beer league, you got to retire 08.
Yeah, possibly.
Everybody's got a 08.
But I mean, I agree with Maddie. Like, it's fair game still, right? I mean, it's not retired. It's not out of circulation. Mm-hmm. And you see the odd team when certain big name guys leave, they don't hand the jersey out. They don't even hand the jersey out at training camp. That number is just out of circulation because they know he's going to get it retired. It's a given. It's gone, right? So, yeah. I mean, I love Deion Sanders, but
yeah, some people get really, really attached to their numbers, right? Like fanatically or superstitiously attached, right? But
right.
I've really found that in football, it doesn't seem to be that. Like, there are so many guys, because there are so many people on any given team. There are only so many numbers. A lot of these guys have switched numbers from, they had one number in high school and they ended up with another number in college, and they wanted to have their college number when they hit the pros. But then when they got to such and such a team, this number wasn't available. So then they got to this other team, and there's guys switch numbers all the time. It's real. There doesn't seem to be that sentimentality attached to it that maybe there used to be.
Well, and like hockey, you can go from 1 to 99. There's no limitation based on your position. There is in football, and the NCAA
it's not so much anymore.
Basically,
right?
has it wide open. Like, you see guys who come in as receivers who wore number 7 in college as a receiver. They can't wear it in the pros, so they have to change their number, right? So, but I mean, yeah, like, I'm with you, Maddie. I totally agree. It's just like, they change numbers all the time. Tom Brady got his number 12 off of Godwin in Tampa Bay, and he just handed it over. He's like, well, why wouldn't I give it to him? It's goddamn Tom Brady. Like, but then you hear of deals where guys buy somebody a car in the NHL to get their number. But I don't know. I've been around enough hockey players, I guess, but they're the most superstitious bastards ever. I'm not superstitious at all. But hockey players, like, Patrick Waugh named both his posts. Like, is there a more crazy fucking goalie thing to do than name the post? And then when the guy'd hit the post, he'd turn around when the play was gone the other end, and he'd thank him.
I don't know. I'm thinking Godwin probably knows that that he better make his quarterback happy. He's the guy who's throwing him the ball all year.
Well, true. But I mean, he never even negotiated any Rolex watch.
I'm sure Tom will
whatever,
take care
right?
of him.
Like, here you go. You're the GOAT. Take it. Speaking of quarterbacks, though, Drew Brees signed a deal with NBC to do Sunday Night Football.
This year?
Well, here's the thing. He just signed a 2-year, $50 million deal to play the next 2 years, presumably. Well, why is NBC that hard up for talent? On-air talent that they need to go and get them 2 years.
Everybody's going to chase the.
Maybe he's got a great personality.
They're signing futures deals now.
Yeah.
Well, and that's essentially it, Maddie. Do you sign that futures deal? Like, how Peyton Manning has turned him down so many times. Like, they keep waving cash at him like crazy. Doesn't want to do it. It's just not his thing. Peyton Manning would be fantastic. I'd love to have him on. But
not everybody who jumps over to the broadcast booth is going to do so and excel like Tony Romo, right?
Jason Witten.
I think everybody's going to look for the next Tony Romo. Yeah. You just know how
That's
is,
exactly
right?
what they're waiting for. Yeah. It's like the rush to sign all the bands coming out of Seattle once Pearl Jam and Nirvana hit, right?
Yeah. There's marginal guys getting big money deals just because, right? Yeah. No, I hear you. But I mean, Drew Brees, I think, would be all right. But he's kind of a laid-back, quiet personality guy. Like, he may not add a lot of pizzazz to the broadcast. He might be okay, but is he worth tons of money? I don't
Yeah,
know.
he seems smart and well spoken, but what the hell has he done
For
from a
sure.
broadcast perspective?
Yeah.
Right. So to me, it's not saying he's going to fail or he's going to be bad, but is he going to be worth the money?
No, but I've never
Mhm.
found his interviews entertaining.
You know, like you look at terms of entertaining, you can't be too zany, I guess, though, either, right? Like,
No, but you have to be a good speaker and be able to capture attention, right?
right, exactly. So I don't know. I just kind of think they may have signed him to that deal just so they don't miss out, like a movie
Sure, yeah,
features
for sure.
kind
Oh
of
yeah,
deal,
yeah.
right?
Hop him up
So
before somebody else does.
if he doesn't actually end up on the air, there must be some kind of out clause or payout or
Sure, it's probably like a CFL player contract, right?
well, if they're going to pay you to say no, sign the deal. Make them pay you to say no. We don't think you're going to work out, right?
Yeah.
So Greg Olson, it didn't work out. Jason Witten. So
They signed Drew Brees for how many million to the NBC?
well, they didn't say his NBC contract numbers, but he just signed a 2-year deal with the Saints for $50 million. And I'm like, well, if he plays both years with the Saints, how long is NBC waiting for him to get in the booth?
I guess
And
They
they're
could have
already
got me for a pack of smokes and a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah, but nobody would want to hear you talk. We're still
Yeah.
waiting for you to
At least
get
they
into
get
the
a great
conversation.
perspective. It'd be more like Bob Emery,
Yeah.
except way more redneck.
That we would give you, yes. But that's sort of the thing. Like, do they need to go that? From his basement. At least that's what they're saying. But
Isn't that actually known as his lair?
the lair, yeah.
Oh no,
like,
that's Gary Bettman.
oh yeah. He's like Gru, Dr. Evil, whatever you want to call him. Apparently they're going to have 2 cameras in the home of 58 different prospects during the draft. That's got to be a bit of a logistical fucking nightmare. Not?
In the scope of this crisis, I would say, yeah.
Yeah. And apparently he's going to talk to each one of these guys after they get drafted. That's going to be a little awkward maybe for everybody to tune in and watch. I mean, you see them on the stage when guys get picked, they walk up, they give them the handshake and the bro hug and everything else. And then there's words exchanged. I don't really need to get into what the commissioner or that player says. Let them have their little moment. Now that seems to be what the only content they're going to have in terms of their broadcast, right? So, but yeah, it's going to be by teleconference. Speaking of awkward, right? This whole CFL season, like you said, Kyle, it's all going to be awkward. This is going to be awkward, I think, to the casual viewer anyway. But like a true football nerd, I'm more interested in not what Roger Goodell does in terms of announcing.
I think the broadcast will be very similar to what we watched. There'll be the panel and talking about the players. The only thing we won't see is literally the hug and handshake of the top,
for me,
the podium
whatever,
on the
12
stage.
guys.
For me, I'm not that bothered. I mean, I'm more interested who the Dolphins pick at 5 and who they didn't pick than to see whoever they do pick give Roger Goodell a fucking bro hug.
Exactly.
You know,
Might be interesting.
And so to me, if you're a football purist or more into who goes where and why and who they missed out on and why, that'll all still be there, I guess. So it'll just be a little bit different delivery, I suppose. So we're going to give a rundown next week on the podcast of who we would all pick team by team in the first round, and a few other maybe honorable mentions for team needs and who they should maybe target, what they do need, what they shouldn't maybe get. But some interesting conversations. We'll go through all that next week. And then a little bit of side note, Christian McCaffrey signed a 4-year extension, $16 million per year. Just happened
much.
this morning. You think too much, Matty? He's the best running back in football, but so is
But
Todd
he's still
Gurley.
a running back.
And
Todd
this
Gurley
was
got paid 2 years ago, and look what happened to him.
this was the first year he was healthy, right?
Well, and he's only 23, so he'll be 28 by the time all these extensions and everything run out. So they're going to get his best years out of him, but he's going to be paid well during those best years too. So
A lot of upside, but running backs are so common, right?
yeah, well, he's a
I get
pretty
that. I get
exceptional
that you
talent,
get
but I mean,
ones that are
not
complete,
impossible.
right? They can catch out of the backfield and they can block. That's super important, but still.
Well, and in today's game with more spread too, how many legit 1,000-yard guys are there who can do it passing and catching?
Yeah, there's not a lot of Marshall Faulks. You're right.
Right. And like, even though David Johnson, like he kind of looks washed up and done and beat up and not really the same, but he's a legit 1,000 guy. That's why he was
3 years ago.
So, there's not a ton of them out there. So
when you look at that running back position, it seems like if you could save some money and put it somewhere else, that would be one of the places where you can trim, right?
So you being a Niners fan, you're all about the committee.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
I totally get it. That to me is a reasonable way to approach it. So,
well, neither
I guess
of the
for
teams
Carolina, that's the way to.
Neither of the teams in the
it.
Super Bowl had spent big money on a running back.
Yep, and nobody's paid a quarterback over $25 million and won a Super Bowl yet.
So
it hasn't happened.
Us?
So it made me do some analytics as to who's the highest paid running back to ever win a Super Bowl. It's a question for another day, maybe.
For another day.
As far as Matty's concerned, we
might have a lot of time this season to come up with all kinds of topics.
Fair enough.
And
Fair enough.
And
you guys are overlooking the obvious. It's just called a great agent, boys.
Well, everybody.
Agent.
Well, for sure, everybody has their right to get paid, but
you need great numbers and great tape and great agent and a team
GM.
willing to pay you.
Oh, I don't disagree,
So anyway, and then some sad news too, I guess. Tavares Jackson died in a car crash yesterday.
What?
Did you see? Yeah, 36 years old. He was one of my favorite. And I know you're not a Vikings fan by any stretch, Kyle, but he was one of my favorite players to use in Madden. He could run, he could throw. He was super fun.
Wow.
I used to play against my one buddy all the time, and we'd always joke that Tavares Jackson was economy version of Econovic, Mike Vick, but he kind of was. But I mean, 36, and yeah, he made a pretty long career out of it for what it was worth. But yeah, died in a car crash. I saw that he died, and I'm like, oh fuck, COVID-19. It has to be COVID. Nope, car crash. Holy shit. So anyway, all the best to his family.
Fortunately for you, though, you can still use him in Madden. He didn't die in Madden.
There you go. Roster update will take him away. Shit. Don't do the roster update. Don't worry. The season didn't start. They don't have anything to update. And then a little other piece of side news. Do you guys see that Dak Prescott held a birthday party?
Oh my God. What an idiot.
What is the stupidest fucking thing you could do right now?
That'd be it.
A get together, right? So he gets together and
a get together,
10 to 30 people. 10 to 30 people.
But you have a get together, and then let's put it all on social media. Like, keep it on the fucking down low.
There you go. No, can't put it on the down low. Got to broadcast, Instagram. I'm a big name. I'm going to get a lot of likes.
And Elliot was there.
There should be another button. Honest to God, I know Facebook and all these platforms. It's like thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. It should be one of those.
Yeah,
that was fucking stupid. There should be a fuck you or a thumbs down.
It seems to be social media
lately. There can't all
lately.
be hearts and thumbs up. It's like, nope, that was dumb. You want to see how people really feel? Away you go. That's all thumbs down. That's a. And the state of Texas has a shelter in place. In place, right, for the whole state, and yeah, that is the most tone deaf thing I've heard of in this whole mess. And then Zeke shows up and parties. Like, fuck, guys, you're gonna be losers forever. Now I want Jerry to be like, Dak, I ain't paying you. I'm trading you. Fuck him. Anyway.
Trade him to the Broncos.
Stupid. Trade him to
the Broncos.
Fuck. We need one of those buttons. We need one of those buttons. Anyway, let's get into the cream and stuff here. Let's get to the NHL.
Okay, while we're talking about death.
Yeah. I shouldn't have called it the cream then, right? The sour grapes here. Colby Cave of the Edmonton Oilers, who was playing okay, I guess, came up, played a little bit till the season got put off, but he was a center for the Oilers. Sasky boy, pride of Battleford, and a former Swift Current Broncos, so a little bit close to home for all of us here on this podcast, being a Sasky boy. Passed away in a coma that was brought on by a brain bleed, which does not sound like a fun way to go. He fought pretty hard, but didn't make her.
Did they say what caused the brain bleed? I couldn't really find it if they said what caused it.
I don't know what brought it on. I don't know. I didn't. They gloss over
the
source of it. And I mean, it really doesn't always have a reason sometimes. Health issues come up, and
so young.
It's 25, man. 25. Yeah.
Did you folks see the community reaction though to that?
Yeah, that was something. Hey, that was something.
Is it 15 kilometers of cars worth lined up on Highway 16 outside of North Battleford?
All along the shoulder. Hey, that's something else. And I mean, these small communities, you get guys like that make it into the show like that. They're a big deal back home. They're a big deal, and they're very proud of one of their own making it to that level. So yeah, I'm sure everybody in Battleford at some point has a Colby Cave story.
Sure.
Who's involved in minor hockey, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah. Anyway, condolences to him or his
family.
I guess significant other, fiance, whatever. Condolences to her and to the family and to the entire Battleford community, and even the Broncos organization losing a player, putting a player in the NHL is a big deal for a junior club. So, it's a loss to them too, loss from their family. So
for sure.
Anyway, that was, terrible, sad news. Sorry if I'm moving around lots. I'm just petting my dog right now. He's loving on Dad.
Aww.
Anyway, it's probably getting ignored by the kids or harassed profusely, so he's hiding. But anyway, let's get to what we're wanting to discuss here. I can't wait to start. We all came up with our all tough guy team, so 9 forwards, and we tried to make it so that everybody picked, 3 right wingers, 3 left wingers, whatever, or at least 3 centermen was kind of the criteria. You couldn't just put 9 wingers together, but to sort of resemble a hockey team. And then 4 defensemen and a goalie. So, I think of tough guys, and the reason I kind of put this kind of thought together was there's all these tough guy teams, and everybody says that the tough guys, and they do them on networks and everything else, and it's just all goons. Well, there's a difference between a straight up goon and a tough guy. There's some guys who can legit score and fight. If you took fighting away, would you put the guy on the ice? Some of these guys, yes. Some of these guys, no. So to me, there's all kinds of ways to show tough. Some guys that stuck out in our minds. We're not saying this list, anybody's list, is the definitive de facto list.
These
We're not
just
going to.
Our lists.
They're just our list. So when I say who's the toughest right winger in hockey, that means something different for everybody. But my definition of tough isn't just drop the gloves.
Well, let's start with your team then, and you can tell us all about your team. There we go.
My team. Woo.
We've got it up there for everyone to see.
Everybody to see. So I'm going to pop my team up here. And I said, I think my dog just tripped and fell. Maybe he was hitting my bottle. Your dog's supposed to look like you, not just act like you, right?
Well,
hitting the bottle.
Hitting the bottle. Yeah. Anyway, my team, I think, can score. And I think if you were in a brawl, a line brawl, we'll leave it at that. I'd want these guys on the ice with me.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice looking team.
I think if we went to overtime, they could score a goal. So I would say the best of the best. I got some names on there, I guess. But Mark Messier, to me, he was a dude who scared the bejesus out of not only the other team, but his own team. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the story of when he became the captain in New York, when he signed in New York.
Tell us.
He signed there. Well, we all know Brian Leach, good captain in his own right, turned the C over, right? Day one. Here it is. You got the C. Mark Messier, apparently, the rumor is, or the story goes, that he walked into Madison Square and the team dressing room was under renovation at that time for the summer. And he walked in, looked at the plans and said, this shit ain't going to fly. It was an L-shaped room. He said, no, everybody in the room, I have to be able to look in the eye from my stall. So they redid the design, it was apparently the story, so that Mark Messier, he could see every guy in the room from his stall. And they said if looks could kill, Mark Messier had that look. He kind of had resting bitch face a lot of time. He looks mean. He looks mean, a little snarly, just naturally, right? So to me, it was kind of a neat story because he could intimidate his own team into playing a certain way. So imagine what he could do to other teams, right? He didn't always fight a ton, but he sure as hell could handle himself. And, there's not many guys in history that have 1,000 points. He had 1,800. And he has 1,900 penalty minutes. To me, tough guy. But anyway, I spent a lot of time on him. But and on his wings, I had Rick Tocchet and Wendell Clark. Tocchet was a tough cookie. He could score, he could shoot, he could fight. And Wendell Clark, well, Kyle's got to love Wendell. He's kind of up in your wheelhouse, neck of the woods, prior to Kelvington. Wendell Clark would take on all comers. Gotta love Wendell. Anyway,
and
I had Bobby Clark as my next center with Gordie Howe and Brendan Shanahan with him. I'm pretty sure a line brawl breaks out. Those guys can handle it. But if we're in overtime on the power play, they can handle it. And then Dale Hunter with Cam Neely and Clark Gillies. I met Clark Gillies, and he's an older guy at the time. But when you shake his hand, you're like, that's the hand of a dude who can handle his shit. He's got big mitts. I got big hands, and it was like, wow, my hand just disappeared. So anyway, and Bam Bam Cam. I love Bam Bam. So anyway, that was my forwards. And then I had Chris Chelios, who in the early part of his career was a fucking spooky dude. And Ken Danico, Dave Manson, Marty McSorley. I was torn on McSorley. He can play hockey, and he's definitely tough.
And you could have put him in a few positions, too.
What's that?
You could have put him in a few positions, too, not necessarily defense.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then I picked Hexy because, well, I'm a bit of a homer, but most people's list I would think, have Ron Hextall on as the toughest, if not the craziest fucking goalie of all time. So, anyway, that was my team. Anybody on that team you guys would think is a definite forget it? No way. We have some similarities. Like there's certain guys that are 3 of the 4 teams they're on kind of thing out of the 4 of us.
Borderline for me.
What's that?
Shanahan's borderline for me.
Yeah.
But other than that, your team's pretty good. I like your picks.
Shanahan had 2,500 penalty minutes.
Yeah, I never thought of him as a tough guy until I started doing research.
What kind of penalty minutes? Are they tripping, slashing?
They're all tripping.
Yeah,
they're all
tripping and slashing.
Cheap stuff.
Those European penalties.
Yeah. You ever see that?
They didn't even wear a visor.
Yeah. You ever see the one where they're like the TSN top 10 mocking the fans moments, where he's in the penalty box? He should have got 2 more for unsportsmanlike, but it was towards a woman who was heckling him all game, and then he went to the penalty box and she's heckling again, and he's like, "That was fucking clutch. I don't care."
That's a good line. Yeah,
that's a gooder. So he had a sense of humor about it, if nothing else. So anyway, yeah, Shanahan. That's maybe one.
That's the only one out of your list that I And Chelios is he's kind of borderline. He's a little dirty. I wouldn't necessarily say it's tough.
Well, I'll give you a little story about Chris Chelios. Chris Chelios in training camp, his first couple of training camps, they had to tell him to back off. Because if you beat him once, the next time you came down, he'd just swing for you. He hated anyone getting around him. He'd kill you before he'd let anyone go around him. He was a little psycho. And if you look at his career, it was like the first 5-6 years, like 250 penalty minutes. And then it's like, I think he got kind of either tuned in or pulled aside, and he cooled his jets significantly. So his first few years in Montreal, he was a bit of a kook. So
yeah, I have Chelios down for 103 fights and 2,891 penalty minutes. So
yeah,
he's no lightweight.
No, but I mean, he did chill out. So maybe in Kyle's memory, he remembers a little more of his Red Wing days than his other days.
Too. Yeah,
so,
I remember his cheap shots.
And some guys do. They chill out as they get older. Case in point.
Chelios.
So, but yeah, debatable for sure.
Nice.
A yes or a no. But anyway. Oh, and with Chelios though, you remember Ronnie Hextall leaving the crease to go get Chelios?
Yes,
that was epic shit. That's kind of why I went and put Ronnie in there. I was like, somebody else will have. I'm going to put him in because anyone who's crazy enough to come out and get Chelios is fucking crazy.
So
that
they can all
dude's
play together.
Legit, yeah. And then locking Ronnie Hextall in the dressing room and a brawl breaks out because you just can't let him loose, right? Anyway.
Nice.
Anyway, that's my list.
Why don't we let our guest go next? He's been a little quiet.
I think so.
I don't know.
The old Sasky Slew Shark. Here we go.
We got Jeff's team up there.
Yeah. So, of course, for my goalie, I picked Cam Ward. Lots of penalty minutes. Lots of penalty minutes.
Cam Ward?
For a goalie. Yes. 96.
96?
How do you get 96 penalty minutes?
Ronnie Hextall is 580.
Yeah, well, guess what? I picked an all Saskatchewan team, except for Marty McSorley.
Yeah.
McSorley's from Hamilton. And he's a multifaceted individual. He was also in Con Air. So he was the pilot.
That's right, he was.
Yeah. He was the pilot with a plane full of convicts.
Thanks, Wayne.
Shit he did in his life. He should have been a convict.
What did he say when he came here? He said it was just like playing for LA again. When he went and took that movie, plane full of convicts. So and then I had Bugard on there. I really liked him. There's lots of guys with lots of penalty minutes, lots of points that I picked. Gordie Howe, of course, right?
Gordie.
For every penalty minute, he's got a point.
I'm pretty sure he made everybody's team.
Yep.
And then I had to kind of protect him a bit with Tiger Williams, right? 4,000 penalty minutes, 500 games.
You had to protect Gordie Howe. The dude
look
played till
at
he was
your
52.
setup there. If we're playing you, I got to have somebody meaner than all your guys. So I went with 4,000 penalty minutes.
Well, exactly. Tiger's awesome. I love Tiger. That's a good one. And he could score a few goals.
Actually, he
did. Goals.
Yeah.
He had.
How many points did he have? I'm just checking. Oh, sorry, 513 points. 513 points. 4,000. So he averaged 4 minutes per game because he played 962 games. So that's not bad. Hartnell, Schultz. All these guys are good guys. Trottier was a very good guy. Smoked outside with him. These guys from the older era, I just think they're just a little bit tougher. Wendell Clark, he's a natural. Like, I think he should have been on everyone's team. All I remember, the one thing is that I think it was the 92 playoffs game 1 against LA. It was Toronto-LA. He popped McSorley for hitting Gilmore.
Yeah, I remember that.
Not see it coming.
And there was no hesitation either, right? Like, it was straight to business.
But he was punching up. Oh, I just remember that hit. And then I remember what happened after it. I think they fought a couple more times in that series. And sorry, I had Eddie Shore and I was probably wrong about that when you guys say he was a defense.
Prior to Fort Capel, my neck of the woods.
Yeah. So I wanted to sub him in for Joey Koser, but somebody said that we didn't have time.
Old time hockey.
Anyways, that I really liked Ron Greschner. I just like the name because every time somebody says he's coming, like he had awesome stats. Awesome stats. He's got 982 games played. He averaged a minute penalties per game, 610 points. He's a D-man.
From Good Soil Sask.
But all everybody's going to say is, oh, fuck, here comes Greschner. These guys have to be there, right? Like, they have to have that. Like, it wasn't for a lack of trying. They had skill.
He was a stalwart on their blue line for a long time.
Lyle might be my one dud. Like, I think he's a stay-at-home defenseman on my team.
There's nothing wrong with a stay-at-home defenseman.
But I mean, he's got to stay. There's no going to the other blue line, Lyle. You stay here. He's my slow guy, I think.
Yeah, but tough as nails.
Absolutely. That's it.
So, how has everybody liked Jeff's list?
So, if there's one guy I don't think I would put on the list, I would have to take Brian Trottier off.
Really?
That would be, yeah.
There's a lack of centermen.
Well, there is and there isn't, I guess. Depends how tough you really want him to be. But I don't know that I want to be on the ice with 5'8" Brian Trottier if shit goes sideways.
I put him and Clark on the same line. Maybe I should have made that line a little taller. But I do have Dave Schultz over there.
You know, Brian Trottier's line mates were Mike Bossy and Clark Gillies. Well, Clark Gillies was the meat. So,
Bossy wasn't a little guy.
Somebody's got to score some goals.
He was pretty scrawny, but I mean, he was taller.
You had Shanahan.
Huh?
You had
Brendan
Shanahan.
Shanahan would beat the shit out of Brian Trottier.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And those old guys. Those old guys.
Old man strength.
Well, if you hear Trottier's story, and I went to a sportsman's dinner with him as one of the speakers, he learned to skate on the dugout with used skates in the middle of, if you've ever been to Val Marie, I don't know where you found the slough because there's no water. It's just a frickin' table out there. But, I mean, that dude came from pretty tough beginning. So, I mean, there's still a certain amount of toughness to him and his game. And I guess playing at 5'8" is probably not easy either. So, anyway, he'd be my one glare on the whole thing. But otherwise, a pretty damn good list.
Yeah, I like your list, man. Matt, you're all good with that list?
Oh yeah.
Love
Let's move on to your list then, Matt.
I don't purport to have any kind of expertise in this, but I just wanted to say that I sat down last night to go over this list, and while I was doing it, I popped on a little viewing on the telly, and I put on Slapshot. I'm not sure if that was by accident or what. Like, I honestly didn't think about it. I didn't even put the two together until afterwards. But then as I'm sitting there writing it down, I'm writing down Eddie Shore, and here's the Hansons going, old-time hockey coach.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome timing.
It's a great
Wendell Clark actually was a late cut on my team too, and for your information, Heath Hextall was my second goalie, so he's riding the pine right now, working the gate.
Yeah, if I didn't pick Hextall, Billy Smith was my guy. I really was going to think of going with Ray Emery just because Ray Emery was one of my personal faves, but I mean, maybe not quite the same criteria, but
yeah. I honestly kind of probably misinterpreted the goal of this just a little bit. I probably went more on the goon side than the tough plus skill side, but I think that there's still some skill here. But I mean, Billy Smith would take your head off if you got in his space, right? So,
or behind his net if you're Gretzky, right?
And then of course, on defense, I took Pronger and Chelios and old time hockey Eddie Shore, and then Marty McSorley. My God, because I was thinking Goons, right? And when you pull a move like he did, I mean, that kind of instantly pops you to that list, right? So
yeah, McSorley played a fairly significant amount of minutes per game, though. It wasn't like he was
did.
a
He was an
6-minute
important.
guy.
Oh
Like,
no, he was an important guy for sure.
Yeah, he could legit
He was
play.
around
So
for years. Yeah. And then Bobby Clark, man, he was my number one center on my my quote unquote goon line, because again, just for if nothing else, going after Karlamov, it was just that was something else. And I mean, that's one of those things you can't live that down, right? or downplay the importance of it. So, but I mean, again, he was a guy who had some serious skill too, and wasn't afraid to mix it up. And then my other centers were, of course, Dale Hunter and Ted Lindsman, to get some classic content in there a little bit before my day. And then on left wing, I had Tiger Williams, terrible Ted Lindsay, who almost got left off the list until I read a quote from him that if he had the option to do anything again, he said, "I wish I could have been a little meaner." And I thought, well, that gets him on the list.
Yeah, he was mean.
And of course, Bob Probert, because I mean, he's just an absolute legend. And then, of course, everybody stuck Gordy on the right wing, and I had Rick Tocchet on there, and of course, I got the one homer pick in there of the mighty Tim Hunter. May he rest in peace as a junior hockey coach.
Well, with a nose like that, he at least could take a punch.
Oh yeah, he earned his keep in the NHL, right?
Take a punch.
There you go.
Yeah.
Any standouts in terms of guys you kind of go, I don't know about that guy? Anyone?
No, that's a pretty good list.
I have one question for Matty, though.
I'll tell you.
Teddy Lindsman.
Yeah.
Not saying it was a bad pick. I'm just saying Teddy Lindsman. What draws you to Teddy Lindsman when you say tough guy?
I just went back and found lists of finding descriptions of him as being incredibly mean and nasty. And that's kind of what I was going with, right? Like, yeah, that's what I wrote down. Like, he only had like 1,725 penalty minutes, but like everything I found about him, he was just super dirty. And so that's how he made my list.
Nice.
Not a bad pick. All right, Kyle.
Kyle.
I guess it's my turn. Well,
yeah.
I did something a little different. Unlike Jeff, I went with a full-on all-Saskatchewan tough guy team.
Nice choice.
So otherwise, Billy Smith would have been my goalie. But in order to keep with the theme I wanted to go with, I went with Glenn Hall, who might be the best goalie ever to come from this province. Then my defense, I got Brad McCrimmon. Score a few goals, a little bit. Dave Manson, good old Lyle Odeline, and then old-time hockey, Eddie Shore, defenseman.
Stick 'em, fuck 'em, let them know you're there.
Defenseman. And I guess if I was putting these into lines, I would put my number one line, my D would be Manson and Shore. Left wing would be Wendell Clark. I would go with Boschman as my center and Gordie Howe as my right wing. And I would put them up against any one of your top lines.
Fair enough.
But I got some other tough guys in there. I got the Boogeyman at left wing. Tiger Williams also at left wing. Those guys will mess you up.
That's a tough left. If I'm coming down that left side versus your team,
yeah, they'll mess you
up. There's a little pee running down my leg, I think.
Yeah, my centermen don't scare you quite as
much.
Take
the middle.
Take to the middle. Cut to the middle.
Yeah, go by my centermen where I've got local boy Ryan Getzlaff, Trache as my other centerman. And then my two right wingers had to go with Joey Koser because, man, Kelvington boy from my neck of the woods, he'll mess you up. He'll mess you up in a big bad way. And then I had to go with the Book Burger over there too. My all Saskatchewan tough guy team. Debate
Well
me.
played.
Good choices.
Nice.
I don't think you can go wrong with calling Saskatchewan kids tough, period.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough argument to have hold up to say they're not, right? So
because they'll probably find you.
Well,
most of them. Most of them, not all of them. Unfortunately, not all of them.
The one guy that kind of stuck for me though too, in a crazy way, like, and he's on a couple of lists, is Laurie Boschman, and it's like it always makes me think of Johnny Cash, The Boy Named Sue, the song Boy Named Sue. If a guy shows up and his name's Laurie, he's probably going to get ridiculed, but I'm pretty sure he's had to stick up for himself a few times. Sure. Probably a tough fucking dude.
You don't think he didn't get picked on? Oh my goodness.
Sure he did.
Yeah.
How do you do that tough?
How are you doing today, Laurie? How's it going today? You having a good day, Laurie? Yeah. He had to bring it every game.
2,263 penalty minutes and 577 points.
Yep.
Yeah, you can play. You can do pretty damn good.
So I did something a little fun with my team before you move on. So I actually figured out the games played, goals, assists, points, plus minus. It's pretty insane. So my team had a combined 13,074 games played, 2,925 goals scored, 4,785 assists for 7,710 points, and a plus 620. Not too bad.
Not too bad.
And a combined 24,437 penalty minutes.
And what's the Corsi?
How many years is that in the penalty box? Not games, years.
That's some time, man.
That's crazy. Well, and before the broadcast started, I implore anybody who's listening, or even any one of these three other gentlemen, to go on YouTube and look up. There's a little story. Well, I think TSN actually had it a little while ago here too, where they went up to Kelvington, Porcupine Plain, that area. And there's a little story that they were telling about Kelvington, Porcupine Plain, and the tough dudes who came out of there. And there is a list. Like you, if you've ever been to Kelvington, when you drive into town, there are little billboards all along the road that say all these different guys' names that came from there, right? And there's a couple of towns in Saskatchewan, one in Alberta that I can think of too, where there's multiple names. But when you go by that, there are not just a number of names, but every guy that you go by, you're like, I wouldn't fuck with that guy. I wouldn't fuck with that guy. I wouldn't fuck with that guy. Like, it is death row of tough dudes, right? So they were doing their little story there, but Joey Kosher being the toughest, and they all said, right, sitting down talking about, they said Joey was the toughest. Like, this is Wendell Clark and the boys there. And they were saying, though, too, that the one playoff that the Leafs were up on the Red Wings, they turned the series, and the Red Wings won the series because Joey Kosher got put on Wendell Clark because they figured out, or the coaches at the time, I believe it was Jacques Dmen, if my memory serves me. Anyway, he said that, Wendell won't fight Joey, and Joey won't fight Wendell. Apparently, they might be cousins, but none of the Kelvington Porcupine Plain boys, all of that group, not once has any one of them fought another one of them.
Interesting.
There's a pecking order.
Not just pecking order. There's just that respect, right? It's like, I'm not,
I'm going to get my ass kicked when I get home if I beat you now.
That's weird though, because I think of like when you grow up with people like that, it'd be like almost like a brotherly thing. And I mean, who never kicked their brother's ass, right?
The hardest punch I ever took was from my brother.
I never ever beat up my brother. Honest, never. Right, Derek?
We just fight. You just fight a little different, but I mean, those guys just wouldn't. They just didn't. I don't know, for whatever reason. So, yeah, kind of a neat story, but. And like I was saying, too, before the podcast started with Joey, there were guys that came out, and you can look it up in Probert's, God rest his soul, his little, 30 for 30 or whatever it was. There's a Bob Probert story where Probert even says guys would come over and fight him just so they didn't have to fight Joey later in the game. Because you knew as a Goon, you had to fight somebody that night. They would roll the dice on Probert rather than trying to avoid Joey. So that's pretty legit heavyweight right there when guys are sidestepping you like that. Everybody knows about the Philadelphia flu and the Broad Street Bullies, but that was the Joey Kosher flu. Like, anyway, I don't know. I like Kyle's list. I really do.
Yeah, it's a great list.
Being that he kept it all in the provinces is pretty cool.
It actually wasn't as hard as you would think. It wasn't as hard as you would think. Just centerman was kind of tough to find a real tough centerman. But other than that, we've got all kinds of tough suckers from this province, man. Even though your guys' lists weren't like all Sass boys, are still good representation.
Oh yeah.
I had to leave on Marty McSorley because I put his fist next to my head, and I couldn't believe that people wanted to get hit with that.
And you got one big fucking gordita of a head too, buddy.
Oh, I know. It's a giant melon. Yeah.
Like
7 3/4.
You legit have to wear a watermelon helmet like a Rider fan. It's the only thing we can hollow out and put on that bucket.
And you got to pick in that watermelon bucket for a while before you find one that fits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to pick through it too to find seeds.
I don't look for those.
Yeah. Anyway. No, some definitely guys. Well, one guy that I didn't feel comfortable putting on or off, but I got right to the end and I thought to have a current player. And I mean, Kyle's got a current player in the former Ryan Getzlaff, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, stuff like that. Jeff's got like Cam Ward, who's, still there. You know, Maddie and I got really nobody that's currently playing on ours, but I mean,
I considered it.
He's got some very, very current guys though too. It's not like they're all super old, and same with myself, but I felt a little bit of a need to maybe put Zdeno Chara on.
I thought about him until I went. He was actually on my list until I replaced him with a Sasaski boy.
Right. The thing with Chara is he doesn't fight often, but when he does,
no, but he's still feared. He's still tough, tough hombre. Right?
And he's 42 years old, still plays at a high level. He's won Norris trophies. He's won a Stanley Cup. So like, he's a very accomplished hockey player, you know, and he can handle himself. So in the name of putting a current guy on, that would have been my switcheroo, I guess, if you will, is to put a current guy on like Chara. But,
my thinking was simply that, like, I considered a few current players, and it was just that you don't have that entire body of work yet for some of these guys, right? So I'm not necessarily sure that a lot of them have earned their place in that all-time list yet. Not to say that they won't at some point belong there, just that we haven't seen their whole body of work yet.
I was surprised you didn't put a Ginla.
Well, he was a tough SOB, man.
Because I thought about him. If he would have been a centerman, he would have been on my team probably.
I have him down for 116 fights, which ain't bad for a guy who scored a lot of goals.
Well, and to me, he was a lot like Cam Neely on my list. When I just kind of thought like Cam was a little more of a banger type, I guess. Like he was a notorious hard body checker. And I think if you extrapolate his numbers over the same period of time as a Ginla, they'd have been very comparable. Big, multiple 50-goal guys, lots of fights. Iggy would have been a very good choice, a very good choice.
I got a couple guys that I was surprised that nobody put on. And that would be, now I can't remember. I was waiting so long to say who it was, and now I can't remember. Ah, Jesus.
See, for mine, it's Corson. I dropped the ball on Corson. Shane Corson was tough.
Yeah. He was a dirty little prick too. But
yeah, well, he did it for 2,400 minutes and 1,200 games. So
yeah.
But then on top of that, every 3 minutes he scored a goal. Every three minutes and penalties he scored a goal. So
he could get it done in multiple ways, right?
He would, yeah.
Oh
no, I don't think many guys like to mess with him a lot.
You know who we missed? Did anybody get Dave the Hammer Schultz in there?
Yeah, somebody had Dave Schultz.
I got him.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. That's one that I kind of overlooked. I mean, when you're getting into tough guys, if you don't include the guy that changed the rule about hand wrapping.
No, I threw him in there.
Who changed the rule on tie downs, right?
Yes,
He made the list. He made the list in Probert. Was it not Probert on the tie downs?
Was it Probert?
Yeah.
I thought it was somebody else.
Anyway, but yeah,
I saw that story last night. Yeah.
Well, when you're the toughest guy on a Stanley Cup, two-time Stanley Cup champion like the Broad Street Bullies, with a nickname like that, Dave the Hammer Schultz probably is close, if not on a list, right? So
absolutely, yeah.
I remember my guys.
For sure.
I remember.
Can't remember who it was in my research, but they actually took off their jersey and their pads to fight so nobody could get an edge on them.
I think Velcro was a thing on Probert. I really do. Because you watch him and it's like he barely gets his hand back and it's just like, it's all gone. And he's in an undershirt swinging. Marty McSorley too. Did he wear shoulder pads? Like you see them come off and they're like the size of.
He just got rid of them. I don't need these. They're just going to hold me back.
But how
I also
quick
noticed
some of those guys shed gear.
Nobody picked Ty Domi either with over
Ty
3,500 penalty minutes and 333 fights.
How many points could he score?
Yeah, well, that's, I guess, the thing, eh?
So did
I saw him
anybody
score once at least a real pretty goal?
I have to admit, near the end, it seemed like he was working a lot harder on his strategy than he was at fighting. Because he did have.
He scored 40 in junior. He scored 40 goals multiple times, I believe. Yeah. So, I mean, but a lot of these guys come into the league as high scoring or guys who can play and score goals in junior, so.
That's what happens as you get up levels, right? I mean, every level you get to, you get the people who dominated the level before.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's a matter of how do I stick? How do I stay here? If he'd have tried to be just a scorer, he might have had a 2-year career, right? Like you bring the dimensions that can keep you there too, right? So do what you're good at.
Anybody that smiles while they're getting hit by Probert deserves pat on the back.
There was one the very first time when he's in a Rangers uniform fighting Probert. I think Probert hit him 30 times in the fucking head before he got 5 off on Probert, and they went for a couple of minutes, and then they break it up, and Ty's just like.
He smiled the whole way through it.
And he must have got hit in the head like 65 times. And he smiles and throws a shrug.
Fortunately, I think his head was actually made of concrete. So
it very well could have been. But he's a brighter guy, I think, too, than people gave him credit for.
Well, I actually really, really had a lot of respect for him after his hockey thing. He actually went forward and did some stuff on education, and he did some stuff where he read out loud for people to show how stupid he sounds when he reads because he's a terrible reader, because he fucking, put off education or didn't give it that kind of effort that he needed to, right?
He
when
took
he was
a lot
kid.
of blows to the head.
And he's actually brought some good forward in the world because of it. And to be able to make fun of yourself for something like that, to bring it to the greater good, I think is really, really commendable. A lot of people aren't big enough to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he had a big heart. I'll give him that, right? On and off the ice. So
well, I do remember my players before you move on. So I was surprised that nobody picked Lindros.
I was just going to mention Lindros, but I didn't want to sound like a complete Flyers homer.
Or the guy who took him out, Scott
You mean the guy
Stevens.
who can't take a hit to the head?
Well, here's the thing with Lindros.
But other than that, man, that dude was a wrecking ball when he was in.
Roll the tape on Scott Stevens.
Okay, well, roll the tape. You roll the tape on Scott Stevens and tell me where he legit went straight at a guy.
I don't.
Yeah, that's the problem, right?
It was a bait and switch every time.
He was the best blindside hitter in the game.
That's how I felt about
Stevens was.
That's how I felt about Chelios, though.
So is that Lindros being soft when he didn't see it coming? You gonna call that a spade?
Maybe just gullible, maybe.
Well, maybe
you're not necessarily soft if you didn't see it coming, but maybe you should have seen it.
Well, here's the thing. In Lindros's defense, when you're 6'5", 240, you kind of take chances going where you want to go for most of your career, especially through junior and the early part of your career. Most guys that hit you don't really hurt you if you feel them at all, right? That's an elephant going through mosquitoes most of the time in junior. He was a man child. So all of a sudden when he met up with a guy who blindside hit him, but also could stand his ground. Stevens was in a pushover. I mean, he could legit stand his ground. That's how that situation happens. Now, to call Lindros soft, I dare anybody, any level of hockey, to take that hit from a guy who can hit that hard and live to tell about it.
Oh,
now,
man. Scott Stevens killed some people.
He did. He definitely did. Paul Correa, that's notorious.
Correa.
Like he wasn't. Paul Correa would have been face down. It wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But when you see him come to and his visor just goes with the like his breath fogging the butt, that's spooky shit. Yeah. But I mean,
never the same.
More on the Lindros side of it, he wasn't the same. But more on the Lindros thing, Lindros was a guy who scrapped a lot. Did you know him and Owen Nolan scrapped 13 times in junior?
Oh, there's a guy I forgot.
Owen Nolan's 3 years older than him. So as a 16-year-old, he fought a 19-year-old. Right? So put that in perspective too. He almost died in a bathtub from internal bleeding because he didn't want to go to the hospital. He was trying to tough it out. Eric Lindros was a tough son of a bitch. He just got hit a couple of times in the head, but he was the target.
No, he was tough.
He was the target, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no,
so
I agree.
You put those big, and that era had some big boys in it. You put those big boys at that speed on the ice with Wayne Gretzky, Gretzky's going to get hurt a lot more too. Semenko or no Semenko.
No, I like the kid, but he was a tough SOB for sure.
He was a tough SOB. But the other guy that I was kind of tore with was Ray Emery.
Oh,
You watch Ray Emery fight as a goalie, and I mean he got tuned in one time, but Ray Emery could scrap. He was a boxer.
Yeah, but he wasn't the goalie of these other guys, though.
Right, he wasn't the same caliber for sure. But
I
Ray
think
Emery was
everybody made
tough.
Other than Jeff, I think everybody made pretty good goalie choices.
I had to pick one snowflake.
Yeah, Candace Ward. Oh, Cam Ward. Okay. Anyway,
he's still up and coming.
Yeah, he's got time.
He's got time.
Well, just for a little bit of perspective on that, you said he had 96 penalty minutes career?
Yeah.
Go on Hockey DB, and I want you to look up Ron Hextall. He had 4 seasons of over 100.
Billy Smith had 500.
No, I mean
when they're real penalties, like 1950, that was a real penalty.
1950, he won cups in the late 70s.
I know, I'm just teasing you, but all I'm saying is a long time ago, penalties were actually penalties. Nowadays, they are not penalties.
Well, you show me a Billy Smith fight.
Penalty for touching.
Yeah. Oh, he can't. He
don't need
can't,
to fight when you're giving blockers
Billy
to the back of the head.
Billy Smith's fights were not. Yeah, they were very one-sided.
They weren't even called fights back then. They were just called tussles.
Yeah.
I think they were called cheap shots.
But he was a tough dude. And Glenn Hall, in terms of the goalies, just to round out the 4, any dude who plays in an era where they don't wear a face mask,
Exactly,
and that long,
you can basically pick.
He's
any
either
goal.
tough or borderline
crazy,
psychotic.
well, or
Same
both.
thing.
Yeah.
So
Very Saskatchewan-like.
Let's move on to the last little bit of the show.
Yep, perfect.
How's that? We'll wrap this up.
Wrap her up.
Oh, guess what? Billy Smith fought Scott Stevens.
Did he?
Absolutely.
No, that's a tough SOB.
How'd he do?
Well, hang on. Let's see what the final verdict is here. You go ahead and talk, Heath, and I'll judge this.
Okay, well, before you think that him kicking a goalie's ass or a goalie kicking his ass, just go and look up Scott Stevens, the remarks that Ty Domi just recently had about Scott Stevens. He said he chased that bastard for years and he wouldn't fight him. So,
Sounds very Scott Stevens-like.
Stevens constantly ducked fights with him despite the ex-defenseman having no issue checking other players.
Exactly. You know what that is? It's not a tough guy, it's a rat.
Yeah. Domi says he never, ever answered the bell.
Nope.
It's a Mershon.
And I have no respect for him then. Say what you want about him, but that's not a respectable, honorable warrior of the game. But anyway, next part of the show. Terry Fox. Yesterday was the 40-year anniversary of the Marathon of Hope starting out. He's a pretty inspirational guy. Now, if you look at the list of greatest Canadians of all time, I believe he ranks number 2.
Behind whom?
You know who's number 1.
Well, who's number 1?
Pro-
Who's number 1?
Isn't it Pierre?
Probably Pierre-Elliott Trudeau.
Nope.
No?
He is on the list, oddly enough.
Is it Tommy Douglas?
Tommy Douglas is number 1. Number
Really?
1. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Greatest Canadians. Well, he kind of changed.
Oh, very much.
That's
I
why he's there.
get that. That's interesting because I mean he's a polarizing figure, right? Just like
He's
Trudeau
polarizing
was.
now for sure.
But I mean, Medicare was not something, globally like it is now in a lot of civilized countries or first world countries. So it wasn't just that he did it for Canada. It was something that went global, right?
Sure, yeah.
So that's a big impact to the way people live. A lot of people live. So, but Terry Fox was number 2.
1. If he was
Much
if
less
it was the
divisive.
other way, I there would be no problem with that for me.
Yeah, and I think those two you'd be splitting hairs. I think it's maybe just the impact of Tommy Douglas on the amount of people globally he affected.
Yeah.
Terry Fox, Canadian for the most part, exclusively, right? But
I think the impact that he had was probably more not as direct, right? I mean, like Tommy Douglas shaped policy and stuff, right?
Right.
Terry Fox raised money for research and raised awareness.
Right. And his foundation.
I mean, talk about an actual hero, though.
Right. And that's where I was going to say, in terms of you look at the top 10 list of greatest Canadians of all time, Terry Fox being number 2, Pierre Trudeau, number 3, Frederick Banting, 4, David Suzuki, 5, Lester B. Pearson, 6, Don Cherry, 7, John A. MacDonald, 8, Alexander Graham Bell, 9, 10 was Wayne Gretzky. Now, lots of good names and lots of different reasons and a lot of different angles to come at there. But to me, I don't think athletes should be on the list.
Well, we sure love our politicians, don't we?
Well, we do, but I mean, in terms of impact on society, I think a politician has a little more power in terms of making change
Than an athlete,
but
for sure.
Than an athlete. And I mean, Don Cherry's on there, but
why is Don Cherry on there?
Because he's a big name. He's a big Canadian name.
Do you think this list would be the same now if it was done now? I'm assuming this list was before.
Well, this was in 2004. This list was made.
This was CBC's contest, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe it was. So
I can't believe Heath's using a CBC list.
Well, it was done through the CBC, but it was voted on from a very large demographic of people, right?
That watch CBC.
And I remember when they ran the contest, it was a big deal. But Tommy Douglas, no doubt, big impact, right? Pierre Trudeau, like him or not, big impact, right? A lot of different aspects of your life, they impact. Tell me what Don Cherry impacted. I love Don Cherry, don't get me wrong, but he's not as inspirational. He's not as charitable, and he's not a Nobel Prize winner like Sir Frederick Banting or who is the other on this list? Lester Pearson. Like, they're winning Nobel Prizes, not doing color commentary or a 2-minute segment on Coach's Corner.
Or telling all Canadians that Europeans are soft.
Well, and you look at even Wayne Gretzky, right? He's mentioned as number 10 on the list. Gretzky, we all love Gretzky. We just went through hockey, our tough guy lists, everything. But Wayne Gretzky is a hockey player, and it says he's the holder of numerous NHL records. Probably holds the record for most fucking Ford and Tylenol commercials too.
I think with Wayne Gretzky though, I mean, that's something where he's kind of transcended the sport, right? I mean, he's a household name with people who he's known by people who don't even know hockey.
I think it's because he's
been an ambassador for the game and an ambassador.
Hockey's our game, and he's the greatest, and he's ours. I think that's why.
Yeah, I don't have a huge problem with that.
he personifies the Canadian spirit as far as I'm concerned. Like, that's the type of people we kind of are known to be, I guess. But he is number 10 on the list. It's not like he's super high. But in terms of Terry Fox, though, they list him as an athlete. But at the same time, as an activist and a humanitarian, that far outweighs his athletic endeavor.
Absolutely, yeah.
For sure.
The athletic endeavor brought the attention to what he was doing. But in terms of, what his cancer research, his foundation has made in terms of, money and it's generated for cancer research is epic. It's huge. Like, it's otherworldly in terms of one guy who 40 years ago did what he did, and it's still generating that kind of money. That, to me, is pretty epic shit.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully the world can find another Terry Fox soon, because the Marathon of Hope is maybe something we're staring down the barrel of right now, right? So maybe we're due for another Terry Fox.
I think we just need to ride this out. We're all going to be fine. Don't panic.
Everybody needs hope, though. That's kind of my point. Yeah. And he was a hope. He was a shining light in the darkness, I guess you could say.
Oh, absolutely. As far as the people that you can hold up, I mean, he should rank right at the very top. I mean, it's hard to find a person who dedicated himself to principle more completely.
Right. And there's a documentary about Terry Fox and his Marathon of Hope and the run and everything else. And I don't know if you've ever watched it, guys, but I mean, I would.
What he went through.
I would.
The sores and oh my God, it sounds just awful.
Yeah. Well, we all have a little time on our hands to take and watch a little extra digital content of some way, shape, or form, I guess.
And believe me, nobody wants to see the Tiger King again.
Yeah,
I didn't want to watch it the first time, so I didn't.
I am so redneck, and I could not get through the first 5 minutes of that show. I actually turned it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
it's
saved
just
yourself
that
a
it's
few hours.
so fucked up.
Yeah,
it's fascinating, but it's not good.
Well, here's the thing about, some stories. You hear buddies tell a story of something and you're like, holy shit, you wouldn't believe what happened. If somebody wrote that as a movie script, they'd be like, nope, too far-fetched. Nobody will fucking buy that. It's just too crazy. That shit doesn't happen.
Kind of like the political script south of the border in the last 4 years, right? I mean,
how about today?
Yeah, sure.
It's stranger than fiction.
The guy who's not supposed to win won.
Yeah.
There's that. Well, no, it is. I mean, he was never supposed to even be the nominee for his party, never mind win, right?
Oh, my God.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it was crazy.
It was long odds, right?
Oh, this show could get real long if we start moving into politics, and we've already been.
We're
at a good
No,
length.
I know what Matty meant. There was just long odds that he overcame, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. It's a bizarre story, for sure.
But anyway, Terry Fox, Marathon of Hope.
40 years ago yesterday. We were just little kids.
40 years.
Little kids.
I didn't think when I was a little 4.5-year-old dude and Terry Fox was out there running that my kids would all be participating in that sort of thing in his marathon many years later.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
I think for a lot of kids out there watching this documentary and learning about Terry Fox, a little Canadian history wouldn't be a bad thing.
For sure.
Mine are glued to all kinds of devices for Netflix and everything else. They can watch that, I think. That might be tomorrow's homework.
Yeah, learn about a real hero.
Yeah, this is what heroes look like. Anyway.
Awesome.
That's it. That's all I got. Let's call it a show.
Hey, thanks for being our guest, Jeff.
Thanks for joining us.
Anything you want to throw out there and let all your peeps know?
I don't think I have any peeps on here, do I, other than you guys?
This is your 3 seconds of fame. Because we get so many viewers that you're gonna get like bugged now from. You're gonna get autographs and all kinds of things. People want to get selfies with you.
Oh yeah.
You just don't understand what you've got yourself into.
Well, I'm hoping that when there's announcements, when things start opening back up, that you guys will bring me back for the discussions on the hockey season.
Of course.
Oh, sure.
Which season will that be? Like 2022 or?
Right after the Olympics. Yep.
Yeah, right 2022, 2023 season.
Yikes.
Yeah, there's not a lot of hope for any seasons coming up in fall right now.
Not
Everybody's
right coming up.
Thanks,
Nope.
Ricky.
Yeah, everybody's playing it safe.
You know, the NHL did say if they can get going and play the rest of this season in the summer, they're okay with starting the next season in November.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Meaning
So
two
the
consecutive
lockout
summers
shortened
of hockey.
season.
I read that the NBA's got a 25-day plan to start up again too, as soon as they get the go-ahead, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's got to have plans, and they probably have 7 plans. And
Well, and that's where I said, what's the plan B?
what's the plan
Everybody's
C?
talking, but the governments and it all over the place. It's like, well, this is what we're kind of expecting. Well,
I don't know.
you're not always going to get what you're expecting.
I don't know
What's
if you
your
can have
plan
just
B?
a plan B. I think you need multiple plans because you don't know when this is all going to change. Just when.
Well, and that's what Craig Reynolds was talking about, right?
Yeah.
When he was making his availability to the media, talking about how they're not really doing a whole lot of substance right now, other than doing a whole lot of modeling and projections and predictions, right? It's like, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens, right? But you don't really know.
No.
You're just trying to be prepared for whatever scenario might befall.
Yeah.
This feels like when you're stuck at the airport and your plane's broke down, so you're delayed, and then they go, come back in 20 minutes and we'll let you know how things are. And then they go, oh, no, it's going to be another 10 minutes. And then an hour later, it's still, oh, no, it's going to be another 20 minutes. That's how this feels. We're just going to keep kicking the goalposts further down. And
well, except in this
at what
case, we've
point-
already been given a hint that the potential is, this plane's not going to make it, and they're going to have to bring in a replacement, right?
at some point.
But how far are we flying?
I think we've already got that hint, right? We got a pretty good idea this is going to be a while.
Well, yeah,
Some
and
people
that's
don't
the
think
thing
so.
too. Like, all I can guarantee is that as director of suspensions with Hockey Regina, if somebody spits next year, it's not going to be a good situation for them. I'm absolutely positive you will be gone forever.
But I mean, you guys did roll out an email that said, like the players shouldn't, share water bottles and all that kind of shit. And I'm just like, yeah, but
that
was early on, right? And but
that was
kind of
early.
But it was kind of comical to me though too, because you're kind of like, well, how do you think these kids fucking share water bottles?
There'll be none of that.
Some do.
But here's the thing, right? A lot of them take their own, so they don't share as it is. But on top of that, it's all these little kids with the fucking 5-inch nipple to shove in their face. And you're like, who needs a fucking nipple? I rip those off. I'm sorry. My kids have never had one. I rip them off other kids' bottles too. I'm just that dick. But you don't need a nipple on your water bottle. You have a cage on. Just squirt it through the cage. It squirts in a little stream, just like a water fountain.
I know. I agree.
So you theoretically could use one water bottle as long as nobody coughs on it or licks it. But, I mean, do you want to? No. But, I mean, they all have their own water bottle, and it's only the kids who got the goddamn nipple halfway down their throat to fucking get a drink of water that are maybe a problem.
I agree.
But they're probably a problem in society one day, too. So
Hashtag
anyone who needs a
nipples.
fucking nipple on a water bottle.
All I'm saying is spitting is going to be relevant next year.
It should be already.
It's going to be very relevant. So. It might
Jeff?
be worse than getting punched.
I was just worried about standing close to you at work to get syphilis. Now it's even worse.
Syphilis, fuck. Whatever. Seen some of your exes. I've seen your exes. Come on.
Oh, careful. This is live.
I'm gonna get punched next time I see her.
That's right. Well, Jeff, thanks again for
She
coming.
helped me out when I was in a pinch. She's good shit when she needs to be. So
thanks, you guys.
Anyway, awesome. Thanks for coming, Jeff.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks, Jeff.
anytime.
We'll have
Take
you
care.
again.
Yeah, you too, Matt.
And thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next Monday for our draft show. So it's probably going to be a long one, so strap in. It should be good. And
Ice up.
Ice up. And as always, I'm Kyle. We got Heath over there, Matt over there. And once again, Jeff was our guest. Thanks a lot for coming out, and we'll see you guys next week. Laters.
Thank you very much.
Laters.